What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with Liberty Hill Comics, where I share my passion and over 40 years experience comic book collecting, investing, and conservation with you. Today I'm going to continue this conservation project on this copy of Avengers #1, the first appearance of the Avengers from November 1963, the height of the Marvel Age, and a great example of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby at their best. For most collectors, this Silver Age Mega Key is a grail. This copy belongs to a friend of the channel, and last episode we did an assessment of the book and developed a game plan for the conservation process. So today, it's time to get started. Before we begin, I want to remind you that in appreciation of subscribers new and old, I'm currently running a free subscriber giveaway. All you need to do for a chance to win this awesome slabbed first appearance of Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Hydra is be subscribed to the channel, follow the link over to that video, and leave a comment there. We're closing in on our subscriber goal quickly, so you don't have much more time if you want to be eligible for the drawing. Good luck! When we start a new conservation project, I always follow my 9-step comic book conservation process. As part of step 1, preparation, we assess the comic book and eliminate steps we don't need to perform and consolidate any steps where possible. If you're interested in working on your own comic book conservation projects, I recommend you check out that video for the overview. If you missed episode 1 of this project, I performed a complete assessment of this comic book and developed a game plan for the conservation, and I even snuck in a little bit of cleaning. I also completed all of my before documentation: pictures, page quality, defects, flaws, anything that I noticed on the book. If you missed it, check out the link here. Alright, with preliminaries out of the way, let's get started. First, always make sure you have clean and dry hands. I like to handle these books without gloves because I like the tactile feedback, but that does mean you have an extra burden to make sure your hands are really clean, don't have a lot of oils on them. We're going to use a cotton round to start. Notice really not getting much off the surface of the book. See here what I mean? I use my finger to feel the surface to see if we have any foreign substances, wrinkles, rips, other things that you can't feel very well through gloves. This is a very gentle wipe with the cotton round. I lift toward the edge. You don't want to be pushing down really hard as you approach the edge. Here we're picking up a little bit of, in truth, it could be black ink or it could be dirt. In my experience, the black ink is some of the hardest ink to pull up, so it's probably dirt. This is my preferred weapon, the Pentel Click Eraser. This is a PVC white eraser, quite soft. You note it does get buildup when you use it. And the way you need to clear that before you use it, and the way I do that is I just rub it here on my little work mat, my hobby mat, until I get that buildup off of it. And when I have that buildup off of it, then I'm clear to start. So now I have a nice clean bright eraser. I'm ready to get started. I'm going to start with the white areas. And so the logo here is an obvious place. You should have kind of a plan of attack. I don't do this perfectly. I skip around a little bit, but I do focus in an area and try to get everything in the area. And then when I'm done, I'll go back over the whole book. So I sort of did S and then the number block. I'm doing R. I won't always go exactly every letter as I go. I'll skip a little bit, like here I'll go to the N and then I'll work back to the E again. So this is not a book that needs a lot of dry cleaning, but it needs the work to be done very carefully. So everything you see me doing here, I'm doing very gently, just barely moving the eraser around the paper, letting the eraser do the work, not putting a lot of force at all into the paper. This paper is 60 years old now. It's seen better days. This is not a high-grade copy. We know it's seen quite a bit of water, which can damage paper fibers and weaken them. There's something on that A there. I'm trying to feel with my finger to see if I think it's something that's actually a foreign substance on the paper, or is it something, an abrasion or a stain? So I'm now going to apply a little bit more pressure with the cotton round on that area. And I constantly check my erasers to see if I'm picking up ink. I also very regularly check the cotton round. And I think we've cleaned that up a little bit. But I think it is a foreign substance. So I grab here my micro spatula, and you see it's something that was stuck on the surface of the book. This is the most gentle scraping that you could imagine with the micro spatula. And there may be a small stain left behind, but that foreign substance is gone. So now we'll move on to other white areas of the book. These PVC erasers can be used over color, but they can also lift color quite easily. So you need to be judicious when you use them over color on Silver Age books. In my hands, this Pentel PVC eraser is a little bit less abrasive than the Mars Stadler. I know some very good conservators prefer the Mars Stadler. And it may be that they're superior on Golden Age books. But if you work on a lot of Silver Age books, again, at least in my hands, this Pentel eraser you end up taking a little bit less color ink off, and you have a little bit more ability to use it over colored inks because of that. Just slightly less abrasive. I like to keep my work surface clean. There's another school where you leave all these eraser crumbs there, and the book continues to roll around in them, and they continue to remove material from the book, foreign substances, dirt, soil, etc. I'm not saying that's wrong, it's just not my general practice. Here I'm prepping a kneaded eraser, and I'm going to go over all the areas of the book with the kneaded eraser. Again, this is very gentle. I support the paper. I'm pulling along the paper tangentially. I check my kneaded eraser regularly to see what it's lifting, and I knead it regularly to present a fresh surface to the comic book. Very gently pulling it along the book. Again, as I approach the edge of the book, I lift. I don't want to be pushing down hard as I'm approaching the edge. That's a great way to chip a chunk of the book right out. As I get toward the side opposite the spine, I will change the orientation that I drag the kneaded eraser, and again I'll pull away from the spine. Again, lifting as I approach the edge, checking my kneaded eraser. It is picking up some color. Again, hard to say if that's black ink or soil. I do believe it's soil because in my experience the colored inks will lift before the black. So if inks were coming up, I would have seen some red, some green, some yellow on there. Those are the colors that lift before the black does. So I think that blackness is in fact soiling, not black ink. And I think the book looks a little bit brighter after doing these kneaded eraser treatments. So I haven't extracted that black substance and done an analysis, a chemical analysis to confirm it's soiling and not ink, but I think we're doing the right thing here. I think most conservators would agree. As I mentioned though, red inks and yellows come up very easily. So here I'm just going to go gently across the logo I'm not going to apply much pressure at all in the red areas. I'm going to very gently drag the eraser through the red areas. Check it again. Flip it so I'm presenting a new fresh surface to the book. As I'm doing this area around Thor's hammer, I realize there's a fair amount of white in there, and there's some areas that I could probably brighten up with the eraser. So I'll probably come back and hit that with the eraser. Again, regularly check the kneaded eraser. So I'm back to my Pentel Click here, the PVC white eraser. Just getting these white areas. Checking to see if I have any buildup on my eraser regularly, or if I'm lifting any ink. And once I've used that kneaded eraser, I want to give everything a nice wipe again with the cotton round. Buff it out. This allows you to feel the surface. So this is some kind of a mark here that actually is not on the surface. It's some kind of a stain that's in the book. And there's an abrasion. I'm just feeling the abrasion to see if there's any foreign material in it. It's obviously where the ink's been scraped off, so there's not much we could do to that unless we wanted to do a color touch or something. Here's the flaw. Remember the rip that's almost an inch long in the back. I want to identify it. I want to know exactly where it is at all times when I'm working on the back of the book. So here on the back, we're going to start in the same fashion with cotton round, gentle. Here's some material that we identified, some kind of a stain or something. We weren't sure, maybe foreign substance when we did our walkthrough. The cotton round, you can feel it drag over that, and I knew essentially immediately after taking a cotton round to it that this was some kind of foreign substance. So again, I have my micro spatula. This is just the most gentle of scraping, just barely more than the weight of the spatula itself. And I just want to let it catch on the foreign substance. And so it has a little edge, and it'll catch that foreign substance and allows me to scrape it off. We may, depending on how adhered it is, we may lose a little bit of ink, a little bit of gloss, but it's certainly, as you can see, much better than having that foreign substance on our comic book. So this is cleaning up very nicely, and I'm very happy with this. Look how much nicer that looks just with a few seconds with the micro spatula. So I think the owner is going to be happy about that. And there were several areas on the book, we'll catch a few more, that got cleaned up in this way because there was actually some kind of a foreign substance on the book. So I want to get whatever that foreign substance is off my workspace. In contrast to the eraser crumbs, that's definitely not doing me any good in any way, so I want to get rid of it immediately. Here again, I'm going with always the away from the spine. I felt something in the book like a ripple, and I wasn't sure if it was a bump, like a foreign body in the book, or just a ripple in the paper. So that's why I picked it up to test it. I convinced myself it was just a ripple in the paper, not an actual, something inside the book that I would have to go hunting through the different pages to try to find, like a lump of something hidden in there. So went right back to the cotton round after investigating that. Of course, along this edge, I can go with the grain of the paper away from the spine, support the paper. I lift as I approach the edge. You see I picked up a little bit of dirt there and also buffed out that area that had that foreign substance on it. Now we'll continue buffing along the spine and work on the bottom half of the book. As we approach that tear, very gently and always going parallel to the tear as we go over it, because we don't want to catch the edge of it with our cotton round and make it worse. I am picking up some soiling on the back, so that's nice. I think the book is looking a little brighter. Alright, time to get in here and start working with the eraser. Again, this is the white PVC from Pentel. Didn't do much on that, which I thought might be soiling. But it is, you can tell from the eraser crumbs when they come off dark that it is lifting something, whether it's lifting soiling or ink. In this area, obviously, it's just white paper, so when the eraser crumbs come off dark, we're obviously picking up soiling. Want to be careful around those reds, they lift really easily. Now I have a ring light in front of me, that's why it's bright right there at the bottom of the video. And it has a magnifying ring 10x and built in. So when I pause, I'm looking around the page with very good light and magnification to find flaws that with the naked eye might just look like a dingy area on a book, but when you see it under great light and magnification, you can recognize it as a mark, soiling, some other problem. And you can get in there and choose the appropriate tool and get after it. And I saw some smudging in that yellow area that I thought I may be able to lift with this PVC eraser, but it lifted a little bit of yellow and didn't seem to really decrease the smudge in a way that I was hoping, so I gave up pretty quickly. Here you see I'm rolling those eraser crumbs around. Like I mentioned before, this is a good way to clean especially the non-white areas because it's very low pressure. And I'll work around the perimeter here. Here there's some weak paper and a bunch of crinkling. We know this paper's been wet before. So I'm going to support the paper very close to the eraser. The high point of that crinkle is an area that gets soiled. Now I picked up a little bit of soiling grime on my eraser, so I'm going to get that off on my hobby mat. Again, you see I'm supporting the paper very close to where I'm working in this instance. Because this paper is crinkled up, it's been wet before, I don't know its status, it's right on the corner, and I do not want to tear it in either direction. Now when I work down this edge, I can work a little bit further away from where I support the paper. It's still very gentle. We're just barely dragging the eraser along. One of the things that beginners, I think, and I did this when I began, I used more force on areas. The thing is you get away with it some of the time, but you'll tear some books. And so you just want to use almost no force, and you just want to do more repetitions. That's how you get the work done. So it's tedious. It takes longer. It's not very much fun, but it's the correct way to do it. If you use more force to get those areas erased, here on this rip, you'll see what I do is I pull directly down, and I pull one direction only, away from the body of the book toward the edge and straight along the rip in a parallel fashion. That way I'm not going to catch an edge or expand that rip in any way. If you use more force, you'll tear the paper. You can pull a chunk right out from a corner or an edge, or you'll just rip the paper. Here I'll go toward that rip but not pull away from it. And it's time to clean up a little bit. I'm really humbled to be able to work on this book. See, even with my brush, I'm not going to pull across that tear. I'm going to go parallel to it. Yeah, I really appreciate the owner letting me work on this book. It's a dream to be able to work on some of these really important books. And just love the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby collaboration here. Time to go back to the kneaded eraser. So now I'm going to start off on those white areas, but the kneaded eraser I'll drag gently across the whole book, including the color areas. I'm doing here is actually trying to avoid the red. It's difficult to see with the camera angle, but where I was putting the pressure is actually in the gutter next to the red, not really focused on the red itself. Similarly, I'm going to pull very gently over the yellow. I'm kind of lifting the kneaded eraser a little bit as I pass over the yellow because it just lifts so easily. And here I'm trying to see if I can't lift some of those Mars, the marking that I mentioned in the yellow body here with the kneaded eraser. I'm not really getting any satisfaction with the kneaded eraser either. So I'm just going to continue to gently pull through this area. Again, just to remove surface soiling from the areas with ink. Notice I'm picking up a little, not a lot, that we don't hit with the PVC eraser very often or very with any pressure really to note. Remember, regularly knead your eraser so you're presenting a fresh, clean surface to the book. Again, I know exactly where that rip is at all time. Pulling right down the length of the rip. You saw when I rotated the book, I rotated the orientation that I'm pulling the eraser. I'm supporting the paper with my left hand. I'm lifting as I approach the edge of the paper. I'm lifting just a little bit the pressure when I go over, for example, the reds and the greens. You can push down a little bit more in all that black text. And that black is usually more stable than the yellow or the red. Now I have a different white eraser. This is one that I use to get into tighter areas. It's 3.8 millimeters wide. And you can see, it's difficult in this video, but you can see those Mars that I was talking about. It's a relatively wide, dark line. And you can see that by very gently just teasing that line with this eraser, I am removing them. And it's just an accumulation of all those little defects. Here's another one of those dark lines I'm going to zap. It's just an accumulation of all those little defects that ends up giving you a lower grade on a book. Any one of these things is barely noticeable. But when you do all of them, and you take the accumulated impression of improvement, just of removing a little dinginess here or there, removing a little foreign substance here or there. And I just felt this area that didn't come up with the PVC eraser with my finger, and I noticed it feels raised. It feels like something's there. So I have my micro spatula, and sure enough, that's a foreign substance, similar to what was on the other area on the back of this book. So the gentlest of scrapes, and I removed most of that substance, and sometimes that substance will leave a little stain behind. Sometimes you can remove it with an eraser, sometimes you can't. So I'm coming back in with my Pentel PVC eraser to see if I can't clean that area up. And essentially that mark is gone. So overall, the back of this book is now looking a lot nicer, a lot brighter. Here's that eraser that I mentioned. Now this is just slightly more abrasive. It is a white eraser, but it's that white eraser that it's not smooth. It's got just a little bit of a rough texture. You probably remember those from those combo pink white erasers from elementary school. So this can very easily lift ink. And in fact, it's lifting a little bit of ink there, but used judiciously, a tiny bit of lift of the green with removing the larger black mark is definitely going to be an improvement. And if you do it judiciously, it's the amount of ink you lift is not enough to really change the color of the book there. Note again, I know at all times where that rip is. Very careful here to move the cotton round in a fashion where it is going down the length of that rip and not able to catch an edge or make it worse. Cotton round came up pretty clean, so pretty happy with the way this book looks right now, and I think our dry cleaning is essentially complete. I'm moving the book around because I'm giving it a last visual inspection in my light and magnification. I've come back with that slightly more abrasive white eraser to see if I can't do something about these dark black here. I think they're tide marks. I don't think much can be done with them. And so I think it is time to disassemble the book. I think we're essentially complete with dry cleaning. So let's wrap up episode 2 here, and next episode we'll disassemble this book. I sincerely appreciate you joining me today, and if you enjoyed this video, please take a few seconds to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Most of the materials I used today are available from Amazon in the affiliate links in the video description if you need any of them for your own conservation efforts. Until next time, take care of one another.